I've got, you're up to date. I've nothing more to tell you. It's Rowan Hand. It's the morning program. Martin Savage is with me. How are you, Martin?
I'm good, Rowan. And yourself?
I think I'm
You
fantastic,
think
but
you're
that's
good?
as much as anyone can say, really, isn't it?
Can't do any more than that.
Martin is my man, forgive the familiarity, Martin, of Japan in here. But before we go to Japan, we'll go to Memphis and Tennessee this morning, because staring at us from a billboard, and I marvel at billboards. Here we have a technology where I press this here.
Yes.
I can talk to people in China on that. And look at that. There's no wires from it. None at all.
Yeah. Modern technology.
That's the amazing miracle.
Yeah.
And yet, there was a man at 5 o'clock this morning on top of a ladder
Yes.
against that billboard, and he's putting up a new poster.
Yeah.
I have kissed Elvis. It's a Coca-Cola advert. I wonder what it's about. I have kissed Elvis, and there's a picture of Elvis there. There's a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Unless Elvis's name's on the bottle.
That could be it. Or the other alternative, maybe it shows the Coca-Cola bottle, it shows him drinking Coca-Cola. So that ergo his lips were on the Coca-Cola bottle.
Yeah.
The lady was speaking, but nowadays you've got to say the person, not the lady, it could be a man, drinking from the bottle. So his or her lips is on the bottle, so ergo they've kissed Elvis.
Yeah.
Who can say?
5 degrees of separation and all that.
5 degrees of separation.
Separation.
Listen to me, you're not the sort of man I thought would go to Memphis in Tennessee and see Elvis's house.
Well, I'm not an amazing Elvis fan. Frances is, my wife is. She'd be a big Elvis
We
fan.
greet you this morning, Francis. How are you?
And we went for a wedding anniversary, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Really?
I wouldn't say against my
What
better.
made it special for you?
I think we were there over Halloween.
Yeah.
And Beale Street is the main street in
Yeah.
Memphis. And Beale Street on Halloween was just a spectacle.
Really?
Americans go overboard about fancy dress. We do the odd fancy dress. You go to a shop, but they have.
it's never all
They
that
have
good,
huge fun. They had
Yeah.
one guy who was, I don't know where you know the Transformers, the television cartoon Transformers,
yeah.
where the cars turn into robots.
Wow.
And this guy was dressed up as a transformer and could change from the car shape into a robot shape. It was amazing. The Jolly Green Giant. When you've shared a tram with the Jolly Green Giant,
You've arrived.
You've arrived.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
you shared buses with people of the Afro-American tradition, and you detected there is still a lot of racism
A lot
in
of
the South.
implicit racism, probably rather than explicit. You go to the bus station, and the only people in the bus station are African Americans.
Yeah.
The white people have all got cars. Now the Afro Americans have cars as well,
Yeah.
but
But by and
by and large they don't have,
Yeah.
and they travel on the buses. And I got the impression that it's an education that they haven't got great schools. They're not being educated to the same degree that the white people would be, and therefore lose out on jobs.
You saw evidence of that on the bus.
There was one particular instance in the bus where one black man was talking across to a woman. He didn't know her. They conversed, I guess, across buses.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he says, I can't get a job, he says, and I can read and write. So the implication there was that he felt reading and writing set him above a lot of his other peers. And that's sad, because we take it for granted here. And they obviously hadn't got widespread this degree of literacy.
Yeah. I discovered in Dallas when I was there, the city, the skyscrapers and the fine buildings and the good roads. As you went a few blocks out, the road surface began to change. It was broken a little bit here and it broke a little bit there. No more fine houses, but blocks of low, broken up houses. Little groups gathered on the corner of Afro-Americans talking, and clearly poverty there.
Yeah.
And that struck me as very, very interesting and strange. And I was going there courtesy of Larry Powell of Newry, who was the manager of the art program of Roderick O'Connor. Le Voyage was the film we were making. And O'Connor, the great Irish artist back in the time of Gauguin and Van Gogh and people like that. And we were there specifically to pick up a check for my African schools. So I thought it a nice quirk of fate that the Bible Belt of Texas was going to give me $20,000 for an African school in the
Yes,
bush.
yes.
And that pleased me greatly. In fact, it happened on the day. I flew out on the day my sister, Finola, died in the hospice.
Gosh.
And I got the word that morning,
Yes.
but couldn't actually stay.
Right.
I had to go.
Oh, yes.
There was a greater thing to be done. I was no good to her. She was dead.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I had to go
Yeah.
and went and got the money and brought it
Yeah,
back.
yes.
We built a classroom with it. You know,
Excellent, yeah,
which
yeah.
was good to do.
Education's the way out, isn't it? Really, for
Seems to be.
Yeah.
They're very good minds. The people who absorb it very good. The other thing I saw when I was down there was the Huntsville prison and the chain gang on the
Yes.
roadside walking along,
Yeah.
men in white suits,
yes,
chained together, working. I didn't think that sort of thing existed at all, but it does.
yeah,
And news this morning again from America that Utah, they're going to execute people with Winchester rifles.
I saw that because
they can't get the drugs.
because
Yeah.
there's a embargo on the export because they don't use capital punishment in Europe, so they have no need for these drugs.
I can't understand why the Americans, if they want to execute people with drugs, why can't they manufacture their own drugs for doing it?
Yeah.
That's a wee bit of a puzzle for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And I think if I were to be executed in the morning and I had the choice of being done by drugs,
yeah.
I would consider the awfulness of the botched executions. I think I'd go for the Winchester bullet through the heart.
Yeah, providing that the guy was half a decent
Yeah.
shot. There was a thing last week in the news, I don't know if you saw it or not, where I can't remember which state executed a man who had half his brain missing because he had been in an accident and had killed somebody subsequently to that, but presumably because that it was brain damaged. And whatever state it was ran against their own regulations of not executing people who were had some sort of mental disability.
It's a barbaric thing, really, because, you know, it's a planned, calculated, focused inexorability to the moment of pulling the trigger or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Pope was speaking about it, Pope Francis the Good. He was speaking about
I
it the other
saw it,
day.
yes.
He was saying it's not good, it shouldn't be happening. And but he's a voice in the wilderness, really. And
Yes.
But is it the case that fewer and fewer American states are now at it? They're pulling back from it a wee bit, I think. Don't know.
I thought at one stage that most states hadn't, and Texas was the only state that had executed, but it seems to be more of them are actually getting back into it again.
Yeah.
You know, my issue with it would be that you can't be 100% certain. You know, there's a lot of people alive today walking free who, had we had capital punishment, would be dead. You know, you take the Guildford 4, the Birmingham 6, they would all have been executed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember, you were too young to remember, the last man to be executed in Northern Ireland,
I do indeed.
Robert McGladdery.
Robert McGladdery is right.
He murdered Pearl Gamble.
Earl Gamble.
And I remember, I was a student in Belfast.
That was 1961.
Yeah, I was in my final year in Belfast
Yeah.
before going to sea.
Yeah.
And I remember the night before, and it was a chilling, spiritually, emotionally, it was a most chilling night for me.
Yeah.
Because as I lay in my comfortable flat,
Yeah.
having my dinner and relaxing,
Yes.
I knew that the sands of time were running out for a man. Doesn't do a man a lot of good, that sort of knowledge. It's not
I
good.
think
it's
not.
good. It's not good. Now, Japan, judo. Tell me about the judo week that has been before we do anything else.
It's been fairly quiet, actually. You know, it will be quiet. There's there's a judo kata competition coming up in Dublin on the 2 weekends after Easter. So the dojo are training for that basically at the moment. But other than that, there's nothing out of the unusual. I was talking to a friend of mine the weekend from Dublin who runs this competition, a fellow called Alan Martin. Is a great man. He teaches judo in schools in Dublin, right? And has a van, loads up with his mats, drives around the schools, puts the mats out, teaches judo, loads them up again, heads off. He's a great man. And then he goes off to the Philippines in the summer and teaches judo in the Philippines in the summer. Yeah.
That's huge. I remember the Dublin judo people, I did a nationwide program with
Yes,
them.
yeah.
And there was a little fellow in a wheelchair. And he would have been 11, 12 years of age. And he suffered from cerebral palsy.
Yes.
And he had his judo suit on.
Yeah.
And he was a great character.
Yeah.
and he would roll on the mat, and he would be able to do this and that
Yeah.
and the other. So judo, like other sports, is there making life better for people who have difficulties at times.
There's a friend of mine who's in Belfast, a fella called Jim Ferguson, and Jim has cerebral palsy, and he's a fourth dan black belt, yeah.
Right.
And he special needs games, judo games. He's a European champion.
Wow,
He was a European champion.
That's
yeah.
as good as that's very.
He's
as
quite
good
an
as it
outspoken
gets.
character. You know, he
Yeah.
doesn't let his cerebral palsy hold
No,
him back.
no.
He has very, very strong opinions on things.
I think that's all to the good.
yeah.
Fukushima, things are happening in Japan.
Yeah, reading in the paper, yeah, Fukushima, they've decided as you know, it happened in Fukushima. You had the earthquake, you had the tsunami, right? That was 2011, right?
Yeah.
And still recovering from it. But they're trying to prevent the tsunami damage and the loss of life. Something like 1,800 people went missing or dead because of this. They're building a chain of walls, right? 400 kilometers long.
A
A
wall?
wall, 250 miles long, right? Chain. 5 stories high in places, right?
goodness.
At a cost of something like 850 billion yen, which is about what? About 5 billion pounds, basically, right? And this is one of the plans. Now, there's different points of view about it. They say, right, that it'll reduce the loss of life, obviously.
As a consequence of any
Because-
further new tsunami.
Yeah, because it'll stop the water and stop the wave from washing in, right? And it'll also provide a lot of work for that area as
course,
well,
of course.
in the short term. But people against it are saying that it'll produce complacency. That the best way to escape a tsunami is to get to high ground. You go to all these areas and it says, in case of tsunami warning, head to high ground. And people will accept that this wall is possibly going to hold it back and not bother trying to get to high ground, and there'll be complacency there. Also, the fact that it's been built where it's been built will have ecological effects as well. They're fishing areas. It will interfere with fishing. It'll be an eyesore.
Yes.
Can you imagine a 5-story high wall being built out along Carlingford Lock, say, for example?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't want that at all.
So there's issues about that as well.
Yeah. Japan, the one thing I'm never terribly sure about, other than the raw fish, the food of Japan that you love. Well, give us an example. Sushi
Sushi.
is one.
Sushi's nice. I like there's a thing they do in Japan. They do it for lunch, basically, and it's nice for lunch. A thing called a bento box. Have you heard?
Bento box, no.
Bento box. Bento box. Funny, somebody described Japan as being like a bento box, but a bento box is a little box about so long, and it's divided into sections.
Yes.
And in each section, you have a different type of food. You could have sushi. You'll have rice. You'll have various things, and they just sit down with their chopsticks at lunchtime and they'll eat these. But some people said Japan is like sushi, like a bento box, that everything is compartmentalized, right? The West is like a ham sandwich. Everything is just slapped in together.
I heard a great. I tuned in. The kind of internet radio is great. And,
Yes.
I tuned into Canadian Broadcasting Radio.
Yeah.
Quirks and Quarks was the name of the
Yes.
program.
Yes.
And they were discussing American food, pastrami, and all of this.
Yes.
And they were having. It was New York, and
Yeah.
they were talking about the quality of sandwich. And,
Yes.
and the woman said, "Well, yeah, it needs to be good. You'll be paying $15 for it, you know." So
Yes.
we're all of that
Yeah,
in there
yeah.
as well. The summer comes. You get the sense of the spirits lifting, don't you? The sky today blue, and the temperature's not too bad.
Yes. Just come back to Japan. The first cherry blossom appeared in Tokyo.
Really?
2 days earlier this year than last year. Yeah.
You're going the wrong way. You're going to fly at some stage and go away to France and take up a semi-permanent residence there, perhaps. I just sense Japan is calling you.
I would probably live in Japan if I had the opportunity.
Really?
Yeah, but I would need to have. It's not going to happen, but it would be that would be nice. I would like that. I think. Yeah, if I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the big things that would attract me to Japan would be martial arts, would be
Yes.
Budo.
Yeah.
And my body just isn't up to
I know this
doing that now. You know,
this thing.
and I would just so in a sense. I would probably feel more frustrated maybe
Yeah,
of
you
having
would,
this
you
around
would,
you
yeah.
and not being able to
To be
participate
part-
to the
yeah,
level that you'd want to.
absolutely,
You know.
absolutely. I know about bodies failing. I write about it in my rambles today in the Newry Democrat.
Yes, yeah.
I tell the people of we're in the dying time, in a sense, that as the glass starts to fill with the sand at the bottom,
yeah.
and you can tell your skeleton isn't what it was.
No, it isn't, yeah.
You become more bony. You hurt more easily.
And I think injuries you got when you were younger that you thought you had got rid of come back to bite you in the bum, don't they? Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're saying about judo, you spent some time doing judo, and you always ask me this question. I'm going to throw it back at you.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You always ask me, what has judo done for you? This is the question you ask me, and I'll throw it back. The time that you spent in judo, what does judo do for you?
It did a number of things. It brought me closer to my children who were doing it seriously.
Yeah.
I was there as the old patriarch. But I mean, it first of all it gave us a time of closeness together.
Yes.
And that's hugely important.
I think it is, yes.
That's the first thing. But personally, what did it do for me? It allowed me to grow a self-confidence, which was important. And it gave me a kind of feeling of achievement, having perfected half a dozen throws and things like that.
Yes.
That I knew, for instance, someone coming at me with a knife, that if I couldn't run away, which is the number one response, if I couldn't run away, I would. Someone's trying to get in, Andrew. Would you that's it. Talk to them, Andrew. That'll be fine. People come through the window.
The wrong door. Yeah. I did the first time I was here myself. Yeah.
So it allowed me to have this confidence
Yes.
that I could handle myself in a crisis.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean I've turned into John Wayne or anything, but the confidence I had was kind of internalized. So it gave me also a sense of pride
Yes.
in that I was able to do it. And that was it, really.
And I think that sense of confidence, people pick up on that. I think a predator, an attacker, right, if they're good at what they do, right, and generally they are, right,
Yeah.
they can tune into body signals
Oh, yeah.
very, very easily, and they can pick out a prospective victim very, very quickly. And I think that confidence that you have from doing martial arts, they pick up on that.
Yeah.
And they say, this is not an easy target. Now, it may not be anything that you're aware of what you're doing, just the way you stand, or the way you walk, or the way you talk, or whatever, the way you interact with people. And they don't want to, it's too much trouble. They'll move on to somebody who's much easier pickings.
Even something as simple as if you're in a situation, not necessarily a confrontational situation, but if someone is being unpleasant, or someone is being unpleasant not to you but to someone in his or her company, that you can actually at a certain moment say, stop! Judah did that for me.
Yeah.
I would have intervened. I remember sitting on a bus. There were 3 people on the bus. There was a young fellow coming home from school, and he was sitting about 4 seats back from the front of the bus. I was sitting.
You're still talking in nautical terms.
Am I?
Yeah. The bow of the bus.
The back. I said back.
He said the bow of the bus.
Oh my God! So there you are. He was about 4 seats back, and I was about 4 seats behind him.
Yeah.
And an oldish man got in and sat down, chose to sit beside the wee boy in the empty bus.
Yes. Okay.
And immediately my hackles went up.
Yeah.
I said, something's not right here.
Yeah.
And I watch.
Yes.
And as the bus proceeded from Dromore towards Banbridge, the old guy started to lean over on top of the child.
Okay. Right. Yes.
I got up and went. I said, sit upright, if you don't mind, please. Do it, please. The lad is crushed.
Yes.
He sat up. But judo gave me the confidence.
Yeah,
So it builds confidence. That's what judo
Yes.
does.
It does.
Thank you for coming in. You're a
My-
great fellow.
my
Will you
pleasure.
come next week?
I shall do. Yeah.
love you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
What we'll do, we'll organise next week. We'll turn the tables on Rowan.
Right.
You shall interview Rowan. I will send you a whole a kind of agenda.
You send me the questions and answers, will you?
I'll give you questions and I'll try and provide. Andrew, you know what we're going to do now? We'll go to that operator 1406. The lads, these are two buskers
Yes.
out of Newry. You'll see them. One's going on to education in music in Edinburgh University.
Yeah.
The other, I don't quite know what he's made his mind up to do, but there are two lads there, and they're in Newry, and they were in with me about 2 months ago when I had the hairy head and all of that. But I thought, I haven't seen them in a wee while, but they said to me, look, would you ever play that out again?
Yes.
So we're going to do that for them now.
Very good.
Go well, take
And
care.
you too.
All the
Yeah.
best.